Imagine this. In America, you are the most talked about athlete. You transformed a team that almost nobody cared about and turned a struggling franchise into a worldwide sensation. Fans are traveling from other countries just to watch you play. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking television ratings, and merchandise disappearing from shelves. You accomplished all of that, yet the people running your organization are reportedly calling you a diva behind your back, cutting the budget, leaking comments to the media, and even retweeting negative stories about you from their own public accounts. Let that picture sink in for a moment, because that is exactly what appears to be happening in Indianapolis right now. The Indiana Fever may have lit the fuse on their own destruction. And now, after the organization reportedly reduced $500,000 in team-related funding, Caitlin Clark allegedly canceled all agreements with them. According to a report spreading throughout sports media, her image is still everywhere across Indiana, but the $500,000 reduction is reportedly gone.
He also was caught saying in a different video that Caitlin Clark had gotten Christy side.
2. The same administration that is cutting funding while still paying her is also reportedly the one calling her a pain in the ass behind closed doors. They simply may not want her, even while they continue wanting her name on the marquee. Before you continue, do me a favor. If you enjoy this video, subscribe now so you never miss the biggest WNBA stories, drama, and game-changing moments.
Rooting against Kelsey or Sophie or obviously Caitlin. But the longer that, if Stephanie White has any success, they're...
However, no one seems to be connecting all of this. The Fever may have already lost their brightest star. So the pressure is not simply coming from inside the organization. And if that happens, everything the Indiana Fever have built over the last 2 years could collapse. This is the breaking point, and we're going to break down every part of it, chapter by chapter. By the end of this film, you will understand exactly how we reached this point, who may be responsible, and what needs to happen next. Stay with me, because this one is going to make you angry. Let's begin at the center of the explosion. The word for now, and we have to call it a rumor because there has been no official confirmation, is that Caitlin Clark has canceled her agreements with the Indiana Fever organization. Not stepped away, not paused, canceled. And the reported trigger is a $500,000 reduction in team-related funding. Now, I already know what some people will say. This is just drama and social media noise. And honestly, I understand that. Healthy skepticism matters in an era filled with hot takes and rage farming. But here is the thing. Even if this exact rumor turns out to be overstated or exaggerated once the full story comes out, the fact that it exists, the fact that it spread this quickly and this widely, and the fact that so many people immediately responded, yeah, that tracks, tells you something important because the groundwork for this explosion was already there. It reveals a great deal about the current condition of this franchise. The cracks were already visible. The mistrust did not begin with this rumor. Instead, the rumor confirmed what supporters had been watching unfold for months in slow motion. Let's go back to the beginning. The expectations were historic when Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana, and she exceeded them. She did not simply meet expectations. She went beyond them. Attendance, revenue, merchandise, television ratings, worldwide recognition, Nike deals, ESPN specials, and every other measurable category tell the story. One woman is largely responsible for transforming the Indiana Fever from a team people respectfully ignored into one that fans around the world now watch. Everyone knows it. So when you hear someone in the front office or inside that building call the woman who practically restored your organization's cultural relevance a diva, you have to ask yourself why. Why would they say that? I wonder. Because powerful people often use the word diva when they become uncomfortable with someone else's influence. When you cannot control someone, that is the word you reach for. When they refuse to make themselves smaller. When they refuse to quietly accept decisions that affect them without asking questions. When they have the confidence to set standards that expose how far the organization has fallen short. That is not a diva. That is a leader. And it increasingly appears that the Fever front office may not be comfortable with strong leadership.
The Indiana Fever organization said that Caitlin Clark was a pain in the ass and a diva. That was
the source of those statements appears to come from the structure itself. Let that reality sink in. The same organization reportedly reduced team-related funding by $500,000. What exactly does that funding support? Think about it. Staff, practice facilities, player development resources, and the quality of travel all form part of the infrastructure needed to keep a team competitive and connected. At the same time, you are reportedly making negative comments about your star player to the media. You are diminishing the resources that help her succeed. You are not simply running a basketball team anymore. You are creating the conditions for sabotage. And here is the detail that should make every season ticket holder in Indiana extremely angry. While that funding is being reduced behind closed doors, Caitlin Clark's face is still everywhere, on advertisements, promotional campaigns, Commissioner's Cup images, and social media efforts. They are aggressively using her image to generate revenue while reportedly taking away resources that support her success. That is not simply a management problem. It is not merely a strategic disagreement. It is hypocrisy so obvious and so shameless that it borders on betrayal. The fans see it too. They have noticed it for a long time, but now they believe they have evidence. The question everyone is asking is whether this is simply dysfunction or something more deliberate. Are longtime members of this franchise, who were comfortable running a mid-level business before Caitlin Clark changed everything, intentionally creating an environment that could push her away? Could they simply prefer not to have her if they cannot control her? Our theory is that, whatever the answer may be, the situation does not look good based on the circumstantial evidence. Every road seems to lead back to Lynn Dunn. Let's talk about her because understanding Lynn Dunn is important to understanding the current condition of this franchise. Lynn Dunn is a seasoned businesswoman. She has been involved in this league. She has strong institutional relationships and, most importantly, she has deep connections to head coach Stephanie White, the woman whose career is now being questioned by supporters who believe she is deliberately mismanaging some of the best defensive talent the WNBA has ever seen. When Dan Daly revealed those insider statements, he was mainly pointing toward the relationship between Dunn and White. These two appear to be aligned. They are protecting their position. They are defending an approach, a philosophy, and a system that existed before Caitlin Clark arrived. And honestly, that system was never built to handle what Caitlin Clark represents. Now, let's talk about something that should at least have triggered a serious conversation, if not stronger action. Indiana Fever executive Lynn Dunn publicly retweeted a popular article about her own star player, making it visible to everyone through her verified platform. Stop and think about that for a moment. That is not normal organizational behavior in any professional setting. Negative coverage involving the player who is your franchise's most valuable asset should not be publicly amplified. You simply do not do that unless you are failing to protect the asset, trying to send a message, or wanting a player to understand exactly where she stands with the people in charge. Any first-year PR intern could tell you that this looks like corporate sabotage disguised as management. The goal would be to weaken Caitlin Clark until she begins questioning herself. It creates enough friction, tension, and negative energy that she eventually stops demanding excellence because every demand exposes the regime's inability to deliver it. Now look closely at what is happening on the court because the chaos away from the court does not exist by itself. It connects directly to what you see during the games. The confusing substitutions. What happens when Caitlin Clark scores, creates opportunities for teammates, and controls the offense. For no obvious strategic reason, she is removed in the middle of a strong run. Then there are the passive-aggressive press conferences and meetings. When coaches are asked about their superstars' limitations on the court, they struggle to hide their discomfort. There is also the repeated refusal to build the offensive system around one of the most talented offensive players the league has produced in a generation. I want to be careful with that language because it is strong, but I am using it intentionally. These things do not simply happen by accident. You do not repeatedly fail to put your best player in position to succeed without making a decision. And when it happens frequently, consistently, game after game, and situation after situation, you eventually stop calling it a mistake. You start calling it a pattern. Then comes the $500,000 funding reduction. Suddenly, that pattern does not seem quite so confusing. It begins to look like a strategy, specifically a strategy built around control. With Caitlin Clark, the Fever may not simply be trying to win. They may be trying to defeat her in a struggle over influence and control. That is what makes the entire situation feel so disturbing. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, the Indiana Fever had low expectations, limited pressure, and comfortable obscurity. They could run whatever system they wanted and make whatever decisions they believed were best. There was no international fan base or national spotlight examining every move. Caitlin Clark not only brought followers, she also brought accountability. She made mediocrity much harder to hide. And some people do not respond well when the spotlight suddenly lands on them. Instead, they resent it. That resentment may be what is driving so much of what we are seeing right now. Let me explain what the fan base looks like at this moment, because it is not simply angry. It is organized. Season ticket holders who invested real money in this team because they believed they were witnessing a revolution are now discussing walkouts during Fever games, including inside the building. That is remarkable. In professional sports, you rarely see something like this. These are not just fans turning off the television at home. People are not simply canceling subscriptions. These are season ticket holders who are physically inside the arena and are threatening to leave while the game is still being played. That shows just how deeply betrayed they feel. But here is the important distinction that takes this beyond an ordinary angry crowd. These fans are not turning against the players on the court. They are protesting the leadership running the organization. There is a major difference. Nobody is hoping Kelsey Mitchell plays badly. Nobody wants Sophie Cunningham to struggle. This uprising is not aimed at the players or the women who take the floor every night. The target is the front office, coaching staff, and decision-makers because they are allegedly creating an environment that is damaging the franchise's most valuable asset. And now, the rumor that Caitlin Clark may have canceled her agreements with the organization is simply adding more fuel to an already raging fire.